Devotions that we've been doing here on Tuesdays now for a few years. It's great to have you here. And it's a pleasure to have you join us as we journey together in this world as God's people. Now, as we come here together, all I can say is that it has been quite the spring, hasn't it? One day it's 80 degrees, I'm getting sunburned, and the next it's throwing out what some would call sneet. A friend of mine said that last night at a meeting. I was at sneet, right? The wonderful concoction of snow and sleet combined. Welcome to southwestern Pennsylvania, where the weather is anyone's guess from day to day. But it's all good because soon summer will be here, and hopefully the thought of sneet will be a very distant memory. But in the meantime, let's continue our celebration of Easter. As I said this past weekend from my pulpit to those who gathered in community for worship, Easter is not just a day, it's an entire season in the life of our church. And throughout this season of celebration, the stories of Jesus' encounter with his followers after his resurrection are front and center. The week before we had the story of Jesus as he appeared to his disciples in the story we call Doubting Thomas. And this past weekend was the reading from Luke's gospel, the road to Emmaus, as we have come to know it as, where Jesus comes to the aid of his believers in their time of sadness and confusion. You see, these disciples, they had hope, right? They had hope that the promises of God were true, that Jesus were alive, as Mary Magdalene had shared when she said, I have seen the Lord, when she went to the tomb. But these disciples, they still were not certain. So they left Jerusalem. They left Jerusalem feeling shattered and muddled and hopeless. They were defeated, they were lost, they were confused, and they were afraid. And the last thing that they ever expected was to meet Jesus. But that encounter changed their lives forever, because that meeting brought back to them the hope they so desperately needed, which is something that can happen and does happen to all those who call upon the name of the Lord. Now, I want you to think about what I just said there. See, just when we think the world has caved in on us and there is no point to it all, we too, like those disciples on the road to Emmaus, we too encounter Christ. Now, it may not be as dramatic as what it was on the road to Emmaus, but Jesus is revealed to us in so many other ways, especially when we need God the most. It may be in the words of a friend, the hearing of a song, the reading of a book, or listening to a podcast. You see, in those times, we come to discover that it was as if Jesus were speaking directly to us. And these things do happen. And when they do, that is when our faith is renewed and our hope is restored. So my message is short today, but if anyone listening to this devotion finds yourself struggling, aimlessly searching, or feeling hopeless on your own road to Emmaus, I want you to open yourself up to see the Lord. I want you to look for God's presence in your life. You see, God comes to all kinds of people in all kinds of ways. But I assure you, God is there. So, my friends, may our eyes be open, and may we see and hear and know that Jesus is in our lives, that Jesus lives, that Jesus is with us. Hey, I want you to have a great rest of your week. Again, the sun's shining today, we'll take it. And by the way, our Pirates are in first place. Stranger things, right? God bless everybody.